Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. My name is Amariah Murdoch and I'm your host. If you are a business owner who is getting overwhelmed and in the growth phase of your business and you know that you need back-end support for your operation and admin, then we need to talk because my company and my high-level executive assistants are ready to get to work in your business so you can be back present for the moments that matter while also getting back to your joy while you make money. So if that sounds interesting to you, I always like to throw that out there. Make sure to connect. But for today's episode, I have the honor and pleasure of connecting with Jiemi, who, when she became a mother in March of 2020, the exact week the world shut down, the high-performing Fortune 500 consultant she spent a decade building herself into that. It collided head on, of course, with the overwhelmed, identity-shaken new mom that she suddenly was. And that collision had a name she didn't know yet. And matrescence, I believe is the way you pronounce it. I'm not going to assume that that's correct. Is that right, Jiemi, so far?
Yeah, I think it's matrescence, like the
Matrescence. Thank
adolescence.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, that is helpful. And here's the thing, guys. I've seen this word barely come up a year postpartum, but I still don't completely understand everything related to it. It's something that has to do with explaining why we feel the way we do after having a kid and how we've changed. And it explains a lot about what we experience after postpartum and beyond. And so I'm excited to dive into that. But back to her story. After burnout, a second baby, the slow realization that millions of women are quietly drowning in this same having it all myth, Jiemi walked away from corporate strategy work to solve the problem herself. She founded Nori, which is not another app to scroll, but an actual support network with one-on-one mentoring, peer groups, and real community for moms who are tired of pretending that they're fine. So in this episode, we're going to unpack the identity crash that no one warns you about and why she's building anti-social media community on purpose and what it's really like bootstrapping that as a solo, non-technical founder and how she's turning empathy into an actual business model. So I'm super excited. Like so much value is about to come out. It's going to be great. Try to keep up. So how are you today, Jamie?
Doing great. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Yeah, love to talk about all of those things that you mentioned.
Yes. No, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. Okay, so let's start with your story. You became a mom in March of 2020, the exact moment the world shut down. What happened? Because you had consultant Jamie and you had new mom Jamie. And tell me what that was like for you.
Yeah. So like you said, it was literally the week. So the day we went into the hospital and delivered, everything was just as normal. The day we left the hospital with the baby, the hospital basically shut down. So like there
Mm.
was more visitors, all masked up. It literally in the span of 48 hours, everything changed. So I think for me, that was something that I did not expect. I think I've always sort of fantasized motherhood or romanticized motherhood in the sense of after I have the baby, I can go out and have like brunch with friends and bring the baby with me and that kind of that was what I was expecting,
Yes.
but it was not like that at all. On top of that, I think COVID and the pandemic had a big impact on my experience with my first. So that was definitely not what I had expected. But in terms of I like the consultant and the new mom. Honestly, I think motherhood was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. Just as like a first time mom, a new mom, there was so much that I feel like I was not ready for, even though we had like planned this whole thing and, we thought we were ready for a child and I've done a ton of research. I've, read a ton of books, but when you are in that moment and you're like, why is this baby not like getting milk? Or, there's just all these things that you expect it to be to just work.
Yeah.
you get there, you're like, "Oh, it's not working, so then what I do?" And then you get into this panic and problem solving and just, like, constantly, people describe it as in the thick of it, that is really
Yes.
what it is. So that was, I think I think in work, there's always a solution or there's always something you can, figure out or brainstorm or do. I think in motherhood, sometimes it's kind of like you have to brute force through it. You just have to go through it and just let it play out and, wait for things to like waiting and
Yes.
the time to heal.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you bringing up expectations because I can speak to it's already a lot when you're getting married to someone or a partnership or whatever you want to call it. For me, obviously it's marriage, but when you are trying to learn that person and navigate life together. And there's expectations that come with that too. At least for me, it was like I expected him to always be available, to always be interested in me, to always ask me questions. That is definitely not always the case. And that's the nicest way, quickest way to say that. But I had expectations with that. But then you add on the kid and expectations around how partners will help with kids or not help with kids or
Yeah.
our parenting styles. And then you have the actual navigation of the kid itself. Like, who is this person? What are their leanings and what do they need? And they don't even know what they need right now. Like they're just not happy or they need something and we're trying to figure it all out together. And I think that the expectations piece is a lot to navigate. Even if you had realistic expectations, like you're saying, there are things that come up you will never be 100% ready because you don't know 100% what's going to happen. There's no way to know. And so I really appreciate you bringing up that piece of it because I think managing expectations is half the battle. Actually, that's half the battle. Uh, So I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. So matrescence, is that how it is? Is that how I say it?
Much better.
Matrescence. Thank you. Okay. So most moms have lived it but never had the word for it. So how would you explain it to a mom who feels like she's losing herself or she's just not bouncing back? How would you describe that experience? What is it?
So the way I'm still new to the word as well, but the way that I heard the Nori members and people who studied this describe it is when you go through adolescence, it's a transformation. And that transformation is physical, psychological, emotional, neurological. Like there's everything about you changes during that period of time. And we are very much aware of that period, like the adolescence period of change. This is literally the same, but for moms, right? Like when a woman a woman becomes a mom, they go through the same kind of 7, 8 dimensions of change. And so it's almost like, this new phase of life that we walk into and the transformation that we undergo that we're a lot of times not aware of. And I think, people don't put emphasis on this change and you kind of just live through it without really knowing, oh, like these are all the things that are happening to me right now. And that is what has happened and will happen to all mothers. So a lot of times it feels like unique to us, but it's not.
Mm, yes. Yes. And does it happen every time after you have a kid? Or is it after the main time is after you have your first kid? I was curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert in this, but my sense, like from my own experience, definitely both times you go through that transformation. Every time you go through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, it's a new experience. It's different. Like my second was very different from my first and the state that I was like the mental state I was in, the point I was in my career, that's all different as well. So I think the transformation is ongoing as well, right? Like as you're going through motherhood, as your child is growing, you're growing as well, you're transforming as
Yeah, that's a good point. And the thing I always like to try to remember is it's our first time being a parent, but it's their first time being a kid, right? We're all literally doing our first everything together. We're just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you spent over a decade advising Fortune 500 companies on growth and partnerships. And were you scared to walk away from that stability, that familiarity?
Yeah, definitely. I It took me a really long time. I would say the decision was not overnight, right? It's something that I've been mulling over and over. Basically, like 2 years after I had my first child, I was really burnt out, and then I took a 6-month sabbatical from work and really was just trying to get back to myself, like what you were saying, like I felt like I completely lost myself. I was just losing myself. I was like I didn't know what I was doing every day. I was just in survival mode. And so that 6-month period really gave me a good opportunity to re-examine my life and my career, my goals, what I want to do. And so I think during that time I was already thinking, but there were no like action. I was really recuperating and thinking about next steps at the same time. And it wasn't until I had my second child, which was 2023, that I decided, okay, like let's maybe explore what is possible. So I explored a ton of different paths, and we can talk about that in detail, but I looked at 5, 6 things in parallel while working,
Yeah.
while still trying to make it work
Mm.
at my old job, right? Like I was trying to get to the next level, trying to do the things that was, what I was supposed to do. But in the back, I was also thinking about, okay, like what are all the other options that I have? So it was not and it wasn't like one day the light bulb just goes on and you leave your job, and I think it takes a lot of time and research and a lot of conversations to get to that.
Yeah, I know that is helpful. I think a lot of people glamorize leaving the 9 to 5. Like, "Oh, well, I left and, I was able to live my life exactly how I want and everything's perfect now." That's clearly not realistic. Now, for some people, it might be, especially if they're single and they don't have kids or they don't have a partner and it's just them. Yeah, for sure. Like, it's probably a little bit easier. But if you have a family, there are certain things, like you're saying, that you have to consider. What was the main, if you had to narrow it down to the top 2 things that helped you decide what was right for you moving forward? What would you say? What were the main 2 things that it came down to for you and all the factors that you were weighing out and considering? What were the main 2 things that you would say, "Okay, well, for me, that helped me make my decision clearer. I had more clarity after I considered these 2 things."
Yeah. I hope this doesn't sound like a fluffy answer, but I was thinking about like happiness, and I was reading a lot about happiness. I was listening to the Happiness Lab.
Mm,
Heard of it. It's called Happiness Lab by Lori Santos. She's
okay.
like a professor who studies happiness. I was reading a lot of books about that, and almost everybody, like the consensus, if even if there's differences in methodology or frameworks, the consensus is always that if you have meaningful relationships in your life, you will be happier. And
Mm,
like meaningful long-term relationships.
mm,
It's never the title or the money or,
mhm.
any of sort of the external materialistic things. It's
Yeah.
always about the relationship. If I took anything away from any of those things, those books or podcasts, like the number one thing is relationship. And at
Mm,
the time, it's like I don't have time for relationships, you know? I don't have time to spend time with my kids. I don't have time to spend time with my husband. I honestly felt like I had no friends because we just don't have time to have friends. We don't have time to have friends over, to like spend time with friends. if anything, we do play dates, and then, you talk to the parents of the kids, and but, like, that's not the kind of adult friendships, right, that you would ideally like to have. So, I think I just look across my life and I was like, "Wow, this is not a I'm not set up for happiness here, like, in the long term," right? And so that was a really big factor, and I was like, "How do I change that?"
Mm,
How do I make more time
mm,
in this current situation? Or, if I can't, like, what do I need to do this? So, you know, number one factor is that. I think the other ones include, like, I want to do something meaningful, while, you know, people actually often say this when you're at work and you have kids at home, like, oh, does this work I'm doing make any sense? Or, like, is this worth it? Like, is it worth me taking time away from my family and my children to do that? I think that's another, kind of question you can ask yourself.
yeah,
Say, oh, like, you know, does this equation make sense right
yeah,
now? So I think a lot of those other factors also play into the decision.
yeah. No, that's helpful. That's really helpful. And at the end of the day, it's hard because we're navigating so many circumstances, but at the same time, we do have the power to make our own choices. We do have the power to decide certain things. And that's the only way things really will change is if we choose to make those changes that we need and choose to design the life that we want to build. Okay. But I really want to talk about Nori now because creating this amazing space for moms to actually have community, and we hear community so much, like it's so overused, like community, community, community. And so, what I would like to do is tell me about why Nori is different. That's
Mhm.
one. And yeah, like what's the main purpose of Nori? How is it different from any other platform? And what does community mean to you now
Mm,
that you've built a community? I'm curious about that.
yeah. When I first started Nori, I didn't think I was building a community. I thought I was building a platform, and that it started with the idea of moms mentoring moms, so like moms supporting moms on a one-on-one, peer-to-peer basis. And I experimented with that with like 100 users, and it was really just the goal was very simple. It was kind of like knowledge sharing, right? And knowledge sharing, not just like the information. So it's not like, oh, how do I potty train my kid? Or how do I sleep train my child? How do I breastfeed? It's more, how did you do it and why did you do that? And, asking sort of the follow up questions, making a connection at the time. I think the connection piece is so important because you can ask all the questions in mom groups or group chats or to AI, and you'll get an answer, but you don't get the connection. There's no human to human connection there. You're just getting the information that you need. So for me, like, I just wanted to build, I just felt like for my own journey, I did not have a space like Nori where I can ask the question and make connections at the same time. And it's like I said, I feel like I had no friends, right? I mean, I had friends, but like they were in very different stages of life. So there's a lot of things that they could not help with, or like they couldn't resonate with what I was going through. So I really just wanted to build that space for people, where they can help each other and they can find each other easily. But it turned into a community, I think, at the end of the day, because people want community and they want to be part of something that is not just information, because they can get that anywhere. I think the main difference for of Nori is, a lot of the conversations that we have, either one on one or in small groups. So we have these small group discussions that are topics based, 1 hour, 4 to 8 people, and we talk about that topic. Like everybody come in and contributes. They don't just sit there and listen to a group of like panelists or experts talk because there's a lot of those as well. Like plenty of people who can tell you what to do. But at times, like you need to talk through it yourself with somebody that is going through it, and it will help clarify what you're going through. So those conversations have been really good and really clarifying for me for, what do people need? And I think people really do appreciate that kind of space to talk about these things where they honestly have no other places to talk about and people to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that because it reminds me of something at some point I'd done a group coaching program that I was running for people who wanted to learn how to grow their business online. And I remember one of our most sought after sessions was roundtable, is what I called it. Roundtable meaning everybody contributes. You all show up, we all contribute to it. We all breathe in and
Mhm.
add to the conversation. That alone changed the whole dynamic. It made people excited to show up. They were looking forward to it. They wanted to be there. We all got to feel a part of it. And so that piece that you're talking about, where you're creating this space where everybody contributes and everybody feels that connection, especially connection, not just information, is key. I definitely resonate with that. And yeah, that is something that although AI is very advanced and helpful, it does
Mhm.
not do the connection. It's just a ton of information. You can actually walk away more overwhelmed than when you went in because of how much information there is. And then on top of that, you don't even know, not even all the information is fact checked. Half of it is, sometimes it isn't, and you just got to guess. But just I think one of the reasons why Nori is so impactful is because you're creating a space where this is what apparently they used to have back in the day in some magical ideal world where we were all in a community space and the moms were regularly seeing each other and the older woman got to meet with the younger woman and just say, "Hey, don't worry, you're not crazy. This is just how it is sometimes, and these are the things that helped me." You're creating that space though online, which is powerful. And it doesn't necessarily have to be older women, but talking to younger women, but it's just this idea that moms
Yeah.
are doing it together, right?
Yeah, there's an idea of paying it forward
Mm,
in Nori, right? So there are moms who are like whose kids are much older and have been through more. Doesn't mean they know everything, but they have, some of those relevant experiences that they can either pass on or at least like make, the moms who are going through it right now feel
mhm.
seen, that
Yeah.
they are not crazy, that they are not doing this, like they're not the only ones doing this. So yeah, there is this element of paying it forward for sure.
Yes. No, I love that. I love that. And one other thing really quick is what I'd like to know is how can we join and what is your hope as a founder for your platform? What is your hope that what is the number one thing that you hope to accomplish with creating that space for moms? That's
Hmm.
what I'd like to hear.
Yeah, you can join just on asknori.com.
Okay.
Right now, there's two different plans. You can select whichever plan that works for you. I would say the my hope is that by creating this space, people are actually using it.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason why I say that is it
Yeah.
is much easier to just get the information and go. And I think a lot of people are just looking for the information because they don't have they're they're too overwhelmed to
Yeah.
look for connection at the same time. So, you have a mom who has 2 minutes in a day and she, posts a question on a group chat and gets the answer and she leaves, right? Like that is what we're used to doing. And that is, I totally get it because I was there too. But I think for people who are joining Nori, I think there is something more that they're looking for. And it is hard to ask for help, to reach out to someone one
Yeah.
on one. But I think I would think about it as kind of I hope people get used to that, the same way they get used to reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
People cold email and cold connect, all the time. And so, this platform is the same. You are talking to people who you've never met,
Mhm.
but you might have the same experience.
Yeah.
And so, I think my hope is we're with Nori, we're training this muscle of ours that we have lost,
Mm.
which is how do you connect with others without like technology. There's so much technology out there that we need to just have some, very, back to like in the past, like how we talk to people, how we connect with others, how we tell stories. Like we need to kind of go back and relearn. And hopefully, this is a place to do that.
No, I love that. I love that. And one of the things, at least for me for this year, has been grounded, just to learn how to be grounded again. So that regardless of what happens and what's going on around me and whether or not things were going the way I thought they were going to go, I know that at the end of the day, I can come back to it's going to be fine. We are not like in the roller coaster of the circumstance or anything. It's just being grounded, knowing that I'm rooted and I'm safe and it's fine. Like it's okay.
Mhm.
Navigate and it's gonna be okay. And that piece, I think, like what you're talking about, a huge part of being grounded is the relationships. It is a community and it is learning from other people. But I really also like the direction we went in our conversation today, talking about the happiness factor because and what helps to contribute to that. One of the main things is relationships. I think that it's funny because it just everything feels like work once you're going as a mom, and especially if you're a mom and a business owner, everything feels like work. Like you've got to focus to do this, you got to focus to do that. And then when you finally get a moment to yourself, you just need to process this. You're just trying to like figure out, okay, wait, what was I doing? And how did I feel about that? And how is this
Yeah.
all going? What am I trying to do again? And it feels like you're just in this constant. But I really appreciate what you're doing with Nori, the platform and the space that you're building for moms. And yeah, and for those of you listening, definitely go ahead and go to asknori.com, check it out, join, connect, especially if you've been looking for connection. This is a wonderful way to give back to yourself too, which is something that we have a hard time doing as moms. And so I always say, take care of yourself. This is one of the easiest ways you can do it right now with 2 clicks. So all the links are below. And Jamie, thank you for your time today and for joining us in this space. I absolutely love what you're building and your story. Really appreciate everything that you're able to bring to the conversation today. And for those of you listening, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us on Mompreneurs Making Moves. As I always say, have fun, get out there, take care of others, but take care of yourself too. Keep showing up, keep making moves, and we will. I also encourage you to connect with Jamie. Her links are also below. And so definitely connect. Like, this is the whole point of having this space here in this podcast, is also for connection, to facilitate connection. So reach out, say hi, even if it's just to say hi. And Amy, thank you again for your time today. And yes, for everyone else listening, I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep showing up, keep making moves, and we will see you on our next episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves.
Thank you.